Hello everyone, welcome to Comic Book Radio. I'm your host Peter Cimetti, and this is episode 91. 91, can you believe it? Man, time's flying. My guest tonight is Sean Arendt, and we're going to be talking about when reality inspires fantasy, channeling trauma to create stories. That's what it would say if YouTube gave me a couple more characters on that title. It's going to be a fun one. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. We got Mark in the chat. What's up, Mark? AHRENT is here. So is Eric DeGuapo. How's it going? We got Blast Beat Industries in the house as well. Grey Wolf Graphics. Hope you're doing well. Thank you for being here tonight. Grape Nuka-Cola. Blue Teddy Narrations in the chat, as well as Bobo Ayame. What's up, Bobo? Jason in the chat as well. Jake Blues, how you doing? Hope you're doing well. Shane O'Sullivan. Wiley J. Draws in the chat. Be lemonade, my friend. When life gives you lemons, make some lemonade. Or whatever your preferable lemon treat is. Johnny Slaction, hope you're doing good. Says a Jose Canseco bat. Tell me you didn't pay money for that. Raphael. Peter Ryder, what's up? Hope you're doing well. Buddha Bear in the chat as well. Sheldon Martin here tonight too. Alright, so without further ado, and yes, I'm going to thank everyone in the chat. When they show up before the show starts, that's how it goes. That's how we do it here on Comic Book Radio. One thing, though, before we bring on Sean. There's been a couple people telling me that they've been unsubscribed by YouTube. They go to the channel, or they're missing notifications, or they're even missing it in their feed. Please make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Give those videos a thumbs up if you enjoy them. And feel free, if you didn't enjoy one, give them a thumbs down, too. You know, be honest. But hopefully you do enjoy them. But make sure you're subscribed. Ring the bell for notifications, all that good stuff. I don't want you missing any of the interviews coming up. There are quite a lot of good ones. Just like tonight's, just like all the past ones. A lot of good ones coming up. I'm now full for November and working now on December. A lot of good guests coming up. So again, make sure you subscribe. All right, so without further ado, let's bring him on, Mr. Sean Arendt. What's up, Sean?
Mr. Cimetti, thank you for having me on.
Pleasure to have you on, my friend. How are you doing?
Doing good. No real complaints. Things are
That's
going
good.
okay. How about yourself?
Yeah, same. Same. You know, it's like, yeah, you gotta just busy, keep doing the thing, you know, and yeah, no complaints, no complaints.
Being busy's good, right? You know, you're doing your
Absolutely.
thing, you're hustling, you're grinding. That's what we're all here for.
Oh yeah, being the opposite of busy is painful.
That's a fact.
You know,
Yeah.
then you gotta work to become busy again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, man, it's good to catch up with you. Good to see you on here tonight. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Me too.
Before we begin with it, as far as this book goes, right? How do I phrase this? I want to, before we touch upon the deeper conversation, I want to touch upon your book for 1 second. And we are mostly talking about that. But
Yeah.
when it comes to your book, what was the main inspiration to make you want to create a comic?
Oh my goodness, all the comics and cartoons I grew up in the 80s and 90s. My dad was a comic book collector from when he was a kid in the Bronx in the 60s, and that's all I essentially knew. Like before I knew Martin Luther King had a dream, I knew with great power came great responsibility. And kind of went from there. It's always been part of my life.
And to tell the story in a comic book format, did you consider any other kind of format, or was it always you were set on telling this particular story as a comic book?
First and foremost, it was a comic book, yeah. I created the character when I was 11. There was a local convention in my town, and Dave Cockrum was the guest of honor.
Oh, man, Dave Cockrum.
Oh, he was such a gentleman, such a gentleman. And there was an art contest. So I created my own character, which was a ripoff of all the 80s and 90s cartoons and Image comic books growing up, like in 1992. So it was perfect timing, you know? And I showed him this character named Should have been Straith, but I'm dyslexic and I didn't know how to properly spell. And he liked it. and he thought it was cool. And Mr. Cockroom said stick with it, and that's what I did. So that's how it
Wow.
started.
Yeah, one of my favorites.
Oh my god, yeah.
Fan- yeah, fantastic artist, great creator.
Doesn't get
Man.
enough love that he deserves. I feel like in the pantheon of legends. I think maybe unfortunately because he was gone too soon before the internet age was around for people to either interact or see him at shows and whatnot. But
Hmm.
one of the best character designers that there was.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so good. I understand where we got to take this conversation even more
Yeah.
tonight. Then,
All right, cool.
so as far as reality inspiring fantasy, I was reading through your description with Type
hmm
One on your Indiegogo campaign,
hmm
which the link is in the description of the show too. And I came across the fact that it's a hero that has diabetes. What was the particular inspiration for that?
Oh, simple. I'm very selfish. When I was 15, I got sick, no, 14, and I became a diabetic. And I was in art class one day working on my character Strees because he was always in my notebooks, just drawing around. And I saw this show that Mario Lopez did where this kid got to choose his adventure, and he got to go float. He was flown out to Extreme Studios to meet Rob Liefeld, and Rob drew Badrock with his character. And I thought it was the coolest thing. So I wrote a letter to Make a Wish, thinking, I'm a sick kid. I would like to wish to be for Rob to draw Strees with Badrock. So I wrote the letter, gave it to my doctor. He's like, "What's this?" I'm like, "It's my wish." He's like, "You're what?" I'm like, "It's my wish." And once he put two and two together, he's like, "That's not how this works out, kid." I'm like, "Oh, fizzle sticks." So that that's how that happened. Essentially, was I basically turned myself into a superhero to meet one of my heroes.
Yeah,
But
you went for it though,
yeah,
Sean. You
yeah, I
went
took the
for it.
shot. Yeah, I took the shot.
Yeah.
So
How
and
old were
then,
you at the time when you did that?
oh my, I was probably 96. So I was 14 still. Yeah,
Okay.
like right off the gate, like right after I got out the Boohoo's, I'm like, how can I make this happen? So
Well, yeah, you went for it, and if anything, that's commendable, man.
thank you.
It
Thank you.
really is. It's it's totally the wrong avenue in terms of what you were doing, and it's funny you can laugh on it now. It's
I
great,
just didn't know.
but
Like I was
yeah,
genuinely just
fizzle sticks.
a
See,
kid.
that
Yeah.
tells me that Sean has probably seen this show before too, and is aware about the no cursing.
Mm-hmm.
See, look at that's great. That's
Mm-hmm.
wonderful. But so you're basing the hero essentially off of something that you were going through.
Yeah.
What what was it like for you in that instance when you were creating this hero with this kind of thing going on in terms of basing it not just on you but also something that you were going through, and I'm guessing it was kind of a difficult thing for you as a kid.
Yeah. They say write what you know, and I couldn't really write about not the bad things I was doing as a kid, but I would get into some trouble. But I knew about this sickness that I just started to live with. I knew about the yo-yo levels of going up and down, the fatigue from that, the
Mm.
going blind, the constant urination. So Rick, um, oh, I just knew that it was rough, and especially for a kid just starting out his life, so to say. Like I had to make adjustments in my life so I can continue on with my life, if that makes sense. And I feel lucky that it happened so young, so I could just roll it over as I'm growing up and coming into my own. That it's just a part of my life. It'll be 28 years now in December. So it's you wake up, you do your morning business, and I take my insulin. So it's just how it is.
So at a young age, you were learning to deal with the responsibility of something that was out of your control.
Yeah, it's pretty heavy for a kid. And I had met kids younger than me in my school that had it, and this is just me patting myself on the back maybe, but the nurse, Mrs. Mongan, was like, "These kids look up to you." Maybe because I was in high school, I was an athlete, I was an artist. I'm like, "What? These kids are cooler." Like they've been on this journey for at least 5 to maybe 10 years longer than I have at the time, and I was just like, selfishly, I felt really good about that. So I tried not to be too much of a bad dude in high school, because if these younger guys are looking up to me, like, I guess I have something, I don't know. It was really weird.
Yeah, so you took that comic book lesson of with great power comes great responsibility.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
you were experiencing the responsibility of the weight of that, especially looking up to the older kids too that were dealing with stuff as well, and you were like,
Mhm.
man, I got to set a good example.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think my mother taught me right. If you got something and somebody else is dealing with it as well, like, try to be the better person. So did my best. I wasn't perfect, but I did my best.
Yeah, I mean that's a big thing, man. I mean, all of us are always trying. We're always dealing with something. Everybody's dealing with something, whether you're
Mhm.
aware of it or not. You know,
Right.
and good on you, man.
Yeah.
Rick Saylor, thank you so much for
My
the
brother.
gifting the 10 memberships in the chat. Holy smokes, man. Thank you, brother. So those that are now gifted those memberships, please feel free to enjoy the use of the emojis, and feel free to walk around the cabin.
Nice. Rick's one of the best. That's a fact.
Yeah, Rick's great.
Hmm.
So when you're creating a story like this, where it is touching upon a personal thing, something that is kind of cathartic for you,
Hmm.
how do you craft this character without it becoming an autobiography?
Oh, that's a good question. It was I had different interests throughout coming of my age, comic book wise or animation wise, that story would change a bit. So it might be a cyber type of story, or it might be a space story. And I just kind of, when I redid it in 2019, I just kind of took the best of them all. And there's a lot of me in there because a main focus is an uncle nephew story about it. And I'm an uncle. Kids go home. It's great, but without being too much of a Sean Aaron, I named him Thomas the Heart. That one of my close friends' uncle passed away from type 1. That got him into the geek lore, and Aaron is the nephew name instead of my nephew Johnny. So it's, you're going to see me in there, but you're not really, like, I'm trying to hold that back as best I can, because it's hard to. Thank you, brother. It's hard not to write about a guy that likes, like, Jodeci. But no, I think I'm doing a good job. Like, I got Mark Polin and Joe Sontag and Kayla. Like, they'll reel me in where they de-Jerseyfy it a bit. They're like, no, 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 no,
Did you just
no.
say de-Jerseyfy?
Yeah, yeah. So I think I'm doing pretty good so far.
Well, good, man, good. Because you don't want to create like a self-insert kind of thing, obviously, right?
No, no.
But that's the thing also, is that whatever you write, there's always a little piece of you in it,
Hmm.
even if it's a character that seems like it's the farthest from. You're still trying to dig into a spot that, like, let's say you create a villain doing something absolutely horrendous.
Hmm.
You would never in a million years condone it. You're still putting a little piece of you in there because you're injecting your own sensibilities and morality into that instance, to be like, that is something I would think is horrible, and that's why I'm going to have this character do it, because I think that this kind of thing is so bad. The reader would probably feel the way I would feel about it. So you're still, even though you don't obviously live out or approve of the action of that kind of character, you're still bringing in a little bit of yourself. So, but there is a difference between doing that and having like the autobiographical type comic thing.
Yeah, it's not that, definitely. Like, I'm not trying to write Shakespeare. I'm not that smart. Like, if you like classic comics from the '90s, this is up your alley. I'm not trying to preach anything. It's a basic superhero story at its core with some heart.
That's great. That's great. So, for you, do you always, or did you always want to create this kind of story? I know you created it when you were a kid, this
Hmm.
character, but sometimes we put those things away. We forget about them, or we go, I made that when I was a kid, and I don't think I really want to use it. I was a kid, and that character seems like it should stay in the past. For you, was that always a scenario where once you got to a certain point, you wanted to tell this story with this character?
Yeah, I've always wanted to tell it. I just never thought I was ready to draw it. Would it be my personal artistic skills, or or knowing how to, because creating a comic book is pretty tough. You got to learn how to do file format. You got to hire a letterer. You got to hire an editor. You got to hire a colorist. I just didn't know the proper route to go upon that way. And then once I kind of figured that all out from a bunch of online friends from the Rob Liefeld message board, I felt I was ready to put it out there. And it took me a little longer than I liked, but we're getting there, and so far so good.
Is this your first comic?
Yeah, I've done some like pinups and stuff like that in indies, but like this is my first book of my own, like that I've written and drawn. So I'm pretty excited.
That's great, man. Well, good for you on taking the initiative to not just make it, because anyone truly can go and just make anything, but to actually go in there and do a lot of the research, do some of your due diligence involved and how to do this thing in a way that people are going to enjoy it, not just that you're going to make it, get it done, and then that's it.
Right.
Kudos to you.
Thank you.
So when you're creating the stories for this this character, as far as the character creation goes, we've kind of covered that, but the plot, what's the plot in terms of not just this issue, but the overall?
Oh, okay. So I've been always interested in Mayan Aztec lore. My grandmother was Mexican, so I always had like the Aztec calendar around, or just different totems and heirlooms just around the house. I'm like, this is some really cool stuff. So growing up, I just kind of got into it more, and I took that, like the Mesoamerican aspect of it, and some other different stuff like Sasquatches and different elements that from previous stories that I kind of took in to put in for Type 1, and I'm just making the comic book I've always wanted. And it's kind of like we're going to be dealing with like Thoth and like the Anunnaki and all of that, and that's how we kind of get the armors and stuff.
Sean, you got to mention that on the Indiegogo.
Yeah? Okay, I'll put that in. All right, cool.
Yeah, because when I was reading the Indiegogo campaign, I was like, oh, it seems interesting, but it was like maybe a sentence or two, and then it was very mysterious. It was very, I don't know what this is. It was very vague.
Gotcha.
But mention some of that, man.
All right, yeah, like the premise is kind of like according to like the Mayan calendar, in December 2012, the world was supposed to end. But that's because like discoded translation that was believed. I'm reading something, so you have to forgive me. But that wasn't the case at all. While it was a warning, it was something entirely different and much more severe than what was believed. Thoth of the Anunnaki created Mesoamerican pyramids as not only conductors and regeneration chambers, but also prisons for false gods, such as the 9 Lords of the Night.
Where are you reading that from?
Oh, I got my notes right in front of me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of it that says that it's basically a mistranslation with 2012, that it was kind of the end of an era and the start of another era. So it wasn't necessarily the literal end of the world, like the world was going to just be an extinction level event.
Yeah.
But it does feel, to be perfectly honest, it feels like a lot of things started changing around 2012.
Yep.
So I think that has some kind of credence, because it feels that way. It feels like and it wasn't a sharp change. Nothing really ever is. There's always like a transitional period.
It was gradual. Yeah.
But yeah. But interesting stuff, man. Yeah, you got to mention that on that Indiegogo campaign.
I'll type it up. I'll put it in there for sure.
Totally, man.
I took like the 9 Lords of the Night, like with the Aztecs, they're 9 deities, and with the Mayans, it's the 9 levels of the underworld. Doesn't mean hell. That just means where they came from. So I kind of put that together, made a little bit of a Mortal Kombat type of element to that, and we'll be introduced into one of the lords in the first book for sure, certain.
Yeah, that's interesting, brother. I had no idea that book was about that.
Yeah, I definitely need to add this to the campaign. Thank you.
Yeah, it's funny too, because it sounds kind of like, and I'm sure you've talked to Joe about this too. It kind of sounds like some of the stuff he's doing with Reaper Destroyer.
It's funny because when me and Joey kind of got back like with our friendship after he took his break from music, we were both spitfiring like what we were doing, and it's like, that sounds like what I'm doing. It's like, no, that sounds like what I'm doing, but like, and it's similar, but different, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah,
we're
yeah, no,
both
it
going down
totally makes sense.
different avenues. Like, so it just shows like what we our interests from what we were brought up on, and it makes us a better team together, both him and I.
Yeah, yeah,
So
absolutely. I mean, honestly, there's even some of those elements within my own story, within King
mhm,
Cryptid. We go into not specifics in terms of like Mayan culture or Anunnaki or anything like that, but there's a
mhm,
lot of stuff that's touched upon that is considered myth, legend, whatever it may be from ancient cultures, and it plays a big part in the series.
mm,
I think we're kind of at a point of it's strange. We're kind of at a point where I think a lot of people are talking about these kinds of things. A lot of people are, when they become dissatisfied with current events or what the future may potentially hold because of what's happening currently, I
mhm,
find that we look back.
yeah,
We look back, we maybe become more spiritual, we try to reconnect.
mhm,
You try to connect more with your roots or with the roots of something that you feel a kinship with. So maybe culturally or whatever. And I know you said you had connections with, what was it, your grandmother was
my grandmother
Mexican?
was Mexican. Yeah,
Yeah, but then there's other people who maybe they don't have any kind of genetic connection to something that they're aware of, perhaps,
yeah,
but they connect to some kind of a culture, that an ancient culture or another geographical culture, whatever that may be. And I think that's really interesting, man. And it's happening to a lot of people. I've been talking to a lot of people, specifically even on this show,
mhm.
that are tapping into that kind of thing. So it's super interesting. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what you put on that Indiegogo then, man. Because
Oh yeah, I'll add
it's
that for sure.
I thought, and not to dismiss what you were doing,
Mhm.
but I thought it was basically more or less sort of like a generic superhero story with a character that is dealing with diabetes. It has like the mysterious kind of armor thing, and you don't
Sure.
know where it's from.
Yeah.
But that's a deep story. That sounds really interesting.
Thank you. Yeah. It's like you're saying. It's like we're all going home. We're all going back to what originally kind of inspired us, and I think it's as creators we're better off for it.
Yeah, 100%, man.
You know?
I agree. I mean, even on a smaller level, and I don't know if you find that you do this, but I'm doing this more and more. I'm not into a lot of the modern stuff that's being put out.
Mhm.
And I've given some of it a shot here and there over the past couple of years, but usually I really regret doing that. So now I'm digging deep back and back and back for all the
Yeah.
stuff that I missed. And anything that looks like, yeah, maybe I might be interested in that, that kind of a story, whatever. And I'll watch that, or I'll put that music on, and I'm getting into so many more things that I never really probably would have been into if not for how dissatisfied I feel with a lot of the stuff that's being made today. Are you getting into anything from the past or anything
Yeah,
like
it's
that?
kind of a blessing and a curse. Like I think we're in the Renaissance, like creator wise. Like I'm going back. Like I just bought the McFarlane like the IDW like oversized art thing, where it shows his original art and some black and white spawns. But I've been getting into like a lot of ancient aliens, clearly like from the Mayan and the Aztecs.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
when I bring up ancient aliens, it clicks more for people. They can kind of like get on board quicker because everybody, a lot of people watch the shows, and I'll go do it down like different rabbit holes of different podcasters. Billy Carlson, I forget his name, but he's on YouTube and he's got some phenomenal stuff that he talks about that's inspired that I was going there, but then I'm like, oh, I could swipe left from what he said, because
Yeah,
is
it's a
it
lot of
real? I
inspirational
don't,
content.
I
Yeah.
don't know if it's real, but does it sound cool? Yes, it does.
Yeah,
So I'm
yeah.
finding a lot of like Joe Rogan, of course, Joe Rogan, like that
Yeah,
guy, that guy's crazy. Yeah, I love him.
yeah, the story aspect alone, whether it's true or not true or whatever, it gets the imagination,
Hmm.
brewing.
Yeah.
And a lot of it, a lot of the theorizing, of course, is what it is, but a lot of the stuff being presented in terms of, look, this is the stuff we're finding. This is stuff that is, you can't argue that this is from an ancient time,
Yep.
an ancient culture. We can barely manage to wrap our head around it because it's such a different reality from what we know. And it's kind of fun trying to piece in the little missing parts of the puzzle. and go, well, maybe this or maybe that, and it could really help fuel a lot of the stories.
Right. Another great guy is Graham Hancock. He does some phenomenal explorations, like mostly in like Egypt and stuff like that, and then seeing how with what Egypt has to offer, and then Mesoamerican, like it's just like,
Yeah.
all right. I think the whole world was Atlantis. Like my personal belief, like people are looking for the lost city of Atlantis. That could have been their Chicago for all we know. But if we look upon like all different like temples or different ruins, there's a similarity. So like
Yeah.
why is there not a belief that the Earth was Atlantis to some degree or another?
Well, there's dozens of
Mm-hmm.
very advanced sunken cities,
Yeah.
you
Oh
know.
yeah.
So Atlantis definitely wasn't just one thing.
Right. Right.
You know, there's a ton of them. It's shocking how many of these things that are in the ocean.
Yeah.
And it's very clearly it was a city, it was a region. You know, they have steps, there's temples
Mm-hmm.
that they have set up, there's all kinds of column and architecture work, and it's very interesting, man. And it would be really funny if a lot of this stuff was, and I'm just spitballing it because I have no idea how it would be this way or
We
if
can
it
make
was
stuff
this
up.
way.
We're
But
creators.
you know, there's so many talks of an Atlantis and
Mm-hmm.
of people then who that would live underwater. You know, the mermaid type people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and even within comics, there's that talk. You know, you get
Yeah.
Aquaman, you get Namor, and it'd be funny if it was these types of structures being created underwater. Because think about how much water, if you could breathe underwater, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
if there was a way, and you could have weight displacement. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you could lift like 200 pounds relatively easily
Right. Yeah.
underwater.
Yeah.
You know, so weight all of a sudden is not so much of an issue. It's almost like you're dealing with something in not a zero gravity environment, but as close to it as you're going to get
Mm-hmm.
without going into zero gravity. So it's interesting with all that stuff. And then the more you go into it and you read about like the subterranean types of cultures where they talked about certain things coming from the ground and certain people going into the ground to live
Mm-hmm.
there. You know, so yeah, man, there's a lot of fuel for stories, and especially it gets the imagination going.
That it does, and it just sounds cool. Like again, is it real? I don't know, but can we make it cool? I believe we all can, to some degree or another.
Oh, totally. Yeah, yeah. There's allegedly more books on Atlantis than any other kind of topic.
Oh, I bet, yeah.
Yeah,
Because people just want to know.
it's true. It really is. I mean, even things like what is that? The Muria, right? And Mu. There's all these different things. That whole there's like the it's like a hidden continent that was in the Pacific
Oh
and
yes.
that's connected with Easter Island and things
Mhm.
like that. And you
Yeah.
can kind of see it when they have photography from above, and then they do like different like ground penetrating radar and stuff like that to map it out. It's different. It's cool.
And it's phenomenal the what technology has gone, where they just kind of map over it, just flying over it, doing the sounds. It's just like wow, you can get 3D image from that. Just marvelous stuff.
Yeah, totally. So, I mean, speaking of reality inspiring fantasy, so we got one aspect where your direct personal reality is
Hmm.
inspiring the fantasy you're creating with your comic.
Yes.
But then there's also a deeper and more ancient reality, a
Hmm.
reality that, you know, physically at least we couldn't possibly have experienced, and then that's also inspiring your fantasy. So I didn't
Hmm.
even know about the fact that I had a hint though. I felt something that
Nice.
that you were onto something deeper. I was like, this guy's friends with Joe Sontag. Joe's really
He's
into
friends
this
with
stuff.
me. Yeah.
So I was like, he's got to be doing something. There's got to be.
Right.
He's got the mysterious armor thing. I was like, it's got to be more than just, you know, yeah, good stuff, man, good stuff.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate that. It means a lot coming from you, especially. That's awesome.
Oh man, well, yeah, no problem. Jeez. So the second part of the conversation, channeling trauma. Now,
Yeah.
I've always thought that trauma defines characters,
Okay.
defines people, and then where you go after that is a whole other story, you know. But for you and the character in your book, how how is that experience being played out?
Well, for myself, as a young age, I got over the boo-hoos very quickly. So, like, why me type of deal. So,
Yeah,
trauma
yeah,
is just, again, I just have to accept it. The character, to some degree, is in the same plane, but he's got to take care of his nephew, who his the nephew's parents had passed away. So he's in this situation where he wasn't ready to be a caregiver for someone else while he's trying getting his life together. And I think that takes precedent over everything else. Like, that's kind of in the back of his mind, even worrying about himself. And that's where the nephew kind of thinks he's the caregiver, where it's like, hey, Uncle Tom, did you check this? We got an appointment next week with the doctor, and so on. So I've never lived my life like, why me or boo-hoos. I just accepted it. It is what it is. There's nothing I can do about it. I can do the best I can, and that's all I can do when it
yeah.
comes to treating the diabetes.
Yeah, and that's one aspect of how you would handle that,
Hmm.
because you could have someone else who then handles it in a different way and gets
Yeah,
really upset about it, gets very, down on themselves, maybe
yeah,
angry at the world or angry at their parents or angry at God or angry at, you know what I mean?
yeah.
And it just kind of has this cyclical thing of negativity and misery.
Yeah, I didn't have time for that, unfortunately. I wanted to get myself balanced out so I could live my life and yeah, not face any consequences at an early age.
Yeah, that's a good outlook, man. And
Right.
and I think that's the outlook. Like when you look at different heroes throughout, not just comics, but just any kind of story,
Hmm.
they're all kind of, in some sense, defined by trauma and how they deal with it, and then the villains in the same way,
Hmm.
and they usually deal with them in very different ways. So
Yeah.
for your story, so we talked a lot about the hero.
Hmm.
What's up with the villains in the story? How are they being defined?
Okay, so I can pull up a picture. My one main villain that we'll meet is Lord Aramis. We'll meet him in the first book as well, and his why he plays a big part in the picture, uh, in the world of Type One. And there we go. Let's see if I can
Oh,
bring it
you're finding
big.
something to share. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I guess where Stree's my main character is blue, red for evil. But yeah, so in the first scene of the book, which is the first 15 pages, um, I put it out a preview book, and it's the introductory of Strees of the world of Type One, and we find out that Strees is trying to get this MacGuffin that Lord Aramis's goons have in their hands, and while he's trying to fight off the bad guys and the thugs and the goons, he has an insulin drop. And when the insulin drop happens, it's really scary. The sweats, the shakes, the out of body experience. So he has to make an option of go full hard on this one element, but find out if it's safe for. All right, so he finds out that there's an armor guy there, and he asks the suit to scan if there's anybody in there, life forms, because he doesn't want to hurt it. But he has to make this happen fast. So his suit says no. He blasts the suit the mech away, just to get it out of the way, and just so he could hopefully get what he's looking for in this crate, and then try to get a sweet or some sort of snack before he dips out. So it kind of shows like you can't always get what you want, but if you try sometime, you get what you need. Shut to the stones, you know. So it doesn't always show that everybody wins, but this guy is after something uh, gateway-ish, let's just say, for within the Mayan and the Aztec lore, that will have
Okay.
something to do with bringing upon the Nine Lords of the Night, or what's believed to bring it upon. He also believes he's a descendant of Lord Pakal. Is he? We'll find out in the pages of Type One. Available right now. But Yeah, I don't know, man. Like if you look at my book, you're like, oh, this guy is really inspired by Image Comics, and you know what? I am.
Well, image of the '90s, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. Let's rephrase that. Image of the early to mid '90s for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who was? I guess I could probably guess, but I'll ask. Who was one of your favorites at Image? Who's your biggest influence?
Oh, it's definitely Rob. Rob Todd and
Yeah.
Jim. Yeah, yeah. Art
Yeah.
Adams is like the top of the list, but definitely
Oh,
Rob.
Art Adams. Yeah. Well,
Yeah, yeah.
he wasn't an Image founder, but hell of an artist.
Hell of an artist, and you know
Oh
he's.
man.
I think he's artistic DNA for almost everybody of that era, for drawing cool characters and panels and stories and detail. Thanks to Terry Austin adding his beautiful inks.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Art Adams was great.
Mm-hmm.
Is great. I
It
should
is great. It is great.
rephrase.
Yes, sir.
Man, oh man. So what you're describing of your main character of Strees, it reminds me of what happens sometimes with Spider-Man with his web shooters. When
Okay.
he'd run out of webbing
Right.
at
Right.
the
Yeah.
worst possible time
Yeah.
sometime.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, obviously, it's a very different scenario, but
Yeah.
kind of still the same effect of you're put now in a, you're already been in a bad situation and now
Yeah.
it's got worse.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the same, but it's different. You know. Yeah.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
falls
yeah.
into that realm for sure.
Yeah. That's interesting, man. Uh, for this story in particular, are you expanding upon it? Is there more to come? Do you have issues down the road plotted out?
Yeah, I have the first three books written, and then like down to six and beyond, like little sprinkles. I gotta see how this goes. This is a business, you know. Like if 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 I'm not going in the hole, like you don't want to do, you don't want to go broke making comic books, you know. So we'll see. You know, I'm gonna do my best. I'm gonna spread the word of Type One the best I can, and I feel once the book is actually done in people's hands and they read it, they're like, oh, okay, I'll take the shot, you know, and then see how number two goes. But I'm pretty pumped. I got some good reception from everybody that's bought it in the preview book or
Nice.
listen to me talk about it or just see the art. You know, I got Dan Kemp coloring it, and he colored over Capullo and Medina for Spawn.
Wow.
Many other guys throughout like Marvel and DC. So he was kind of at the forefront of computer coloring. So I have him on board to make me look a lot better than I actually am.
That's great, man. Very
Yeah.
nice. Very nice. So here's the Indiegogo campaign of Type 1.
Hmm.
This is currently in demand. You guys can check it out. Again, the link is in the description of the show. I'm going to put the link in the chat as well. Here we are. There's the link right there for you guys. So you guys can go check it out. And it looks like you are, okay, you're 4 backers away from 100.
Nice. Thank you, everyone.
Very nice, man. So yeah, keep it up. And hopefully you hit that 100 soon.
Hmm.
That'd be great.
Yeah, yeah. I'm going to be fulfilling next September. Again, a lot has to do with me drawing pages. I take a while myself. Dan is super busy, so getting him time to lock down the proper amount of time to put the love and care into his pages takes a while. And I'll be done beforehand, but I just in case stuff happens, like with printing errors or
I hear you. Yeah,
or
you want to
anything
give
that way.
yourself some time. Yeah.
Yeah, so if I fulfill before then, I can show some sort of relief, like, oh, this guy knows what he's doing, you know. Ah, thank you, Rick. Appreciate it.
Paul says only 4. We got this. There you
Ah,
go.
man, much appreciated.
Yeah.
And
And-
also, if you don't like the book, we got a tier to donate a book to a kid with juvenile diabetes.
Oh, no way.
I'm talking to JDRF Illinois Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation about getting that into their hands so they can dispense it, so nobody gets mad at me for picking and choosing. Got to do some work with them last year. I donated the Murat Michaels variant for a preview book. I did a variant for a preview book. That's how shallow I am. But anyway, the original art to them. So they sold it. I don't know for how much. I wish I did so I could brag upon that. But it altogether they made over $16 million to help out families in need of money because it ain't cheap to be a diabetic. And in the process of talking with them now about doing some stuff down the line and getting really involved within that community, which has kind of been the dream from Jump Street. So it's going pretty good. I feel very blessed where I'm at.
Oh, good, man. That's awesome. Good on you.
Thank you, thank you.
And the 11 on here, too, who donated a book.
Mm-hmm.
So good on you guys as well. If any of you guys are in the chat, awesome. And yeah, man. So I can't wait to see when you put this this description.
Okay, I'm gonna highlight what I want now.
Of a revision.
Yeah, I'm gonna highlight that part right now, and then I'll add it later on tonight for sure.
Yeah, I think you'll get to that 100 pretty quick once you put that in there.
Yeah, thank you.
Spicer McLeroy, holy smokes, man! Thank you for gifting 10 memberships to the people in the chat as well. Appreciate it. Holy smokes!
Very cool.
So that means between Spicer and Rick, 20 people are now new members of the show. Welcome aboard. But yeah, so getting back a bit to the reality inspiring fantasy, is there any other thing within your interest within ancient history, things like that, whatever else it may be, even too, your own life, whatever, anything reality based that also is inspiring your story?
I don't know if it's really reality, but Sasquatches. Like, I got Sasquatches in the book because why not? Like, it's like kind of like my love of Harry and Henderson's meets
You
Dino
really
Riders.
gotta mention that, yeah.
Yeah. I can show a picture of that guy, but yeah, it's. I just think a lot of stuff is cool, and I'm going to be showing that in the pages of Type 1, and I don't know. I'm a kid of the 80s and 90s of all these different movies that we grew up on.
Nice, man. Yeah, I would never ever in a million years look at your book and think there's going to be a Sasquatch that shows up in this. That's great.
Yeah, like the they're called the Paramus, and like the helmet is kind of like their being brain box, kind of like in Dino Riders.
Okay.
So I have
Dino Riders. That
yeah. So there's a town in Jersey called Paramus, and there's Paramus Road, but like on the navigation, it's like Paramus Road. I'm like, what? It's not that. And after repeating a couple of times, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna use that because I think I stole like Dale Keown and like the Guyver's name of like Xeonoid or Zeronoids from them originally. So I'm like, oh, this makes more sense, and nobody's gonna sue me. So we went down that road and it's got the staff. So because like Sasquatches are known for like teleportation or being there, not being there, and I just like 90s like Gambit staffs to like shoot like lasers and stuff. So we got some Mayan stuff on them too. So. Yeah.
That's great, man.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Yeah. Get that in there. Get all that stuff in there.
All right, cool.
Yeah, I find there's a lot of creators that are, and maybe I'm too sharey. I share a lot with it of what I'm doing. You know, I don't give away key components to the stories and spoilers that would ruin a surprise. But you know, I find there's a lot of creators that are very tight-lipped. They don't want to talk too much about it. You know, they want people to discover it in the book. And I get that. I appreciate that. But at the same time, where, you know, they don't have the ability to, let's say, go to the stand, flip through it, you know,
Right.
and then see, like, oh, wait, there's a Sasquatch that shows up in this thing. You know, they don't have the ability to do that. You kind of have to be more open about some of the stuff. Not all of it, but some of the stuff that shows up. And not necessarily dive into, you know, spoiling the plot or any surprises. Yeah.
I want to make a note of that. Cool.
But yeah, Paul, Dino Riders reference. Holy smokes, man. I had the T-Rex when I was a kid.
As did I.
And oh, that was great. Yeah. Those were some great toys. That was a show, right?
Yeah, there was 13 episodes. You could find them on YouTube. Yeah, I love that show. It was great.
That was fun.
Harness the power, Dino Riders. Yeah. I gave my nephew all my old toys when he was younger, so they're still around somewhere.
That's awesome, man. Awesome. So, and that even again ties reality into inspiring fantasy. You know, there's so many things where people are 100% going into it saying that, well, this kind of stuff, it's going to be purely fictional and whatever it may be. But even if you look at myths and legends and things like that, even if you go, and I have a hard time nowadays even using those words sometime depending on what it is, because there's too much truth built into some of it.
Right.
So even though it might spin out into a story, a fictional story, it's still based on something.
Right.
And I feel like it's the same thing that we see with stuff that's created nowadays too. Is that it's still based on something, even if it is purely fictional.
Yeah. 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 They wrote it in stone.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Brian says, Pete's telling the truth. I passed on this because I just thought it was a hero with diabetes.
Hopefully this interview changes your mind, brother, and
Look at that.
whether you back the book alone or
Yeah.
donate to a child with diabetes, God bless you, man. Appreciate it.
So type 1, you have this compelling hero that's up against realistic obstacles, but you also have this unbelievable depth to the story that's tying it into ancient civilizations and modern or maybe ancient tech that's being used in a modern way.
Mm-hmm.
You got a Sasquatch in there with armor and stuff. I mean, man, you got a lot of stuff going on with this book that gets more intriguing by the second that you talk about it.
Yeah, fate, terrors from the past. Find out how our past can save our future. Essentially.
Yeah. Well, and that's a good point too. I mean, we see that a lot, right? Nowadays, where there's kind of a constant wanting to rewrite the past, and that's kind of a thing that's always occurred.
Yeah.
Right. But we're seeing it come fast and furious nowadays because technology is being used full tilt. What are your thoughts on that? How do you think we managed to fight that kind of a thing?
You mean rewrite our wrongs?
Well, not necessarily the wrongs, but rewriting even the positives. Because there's even, and I mean, we shouldn't rewrite our wrongs either. We should try to strive to write what was the truth and let it be. But we see time and again of a rewriting of wrongs and also a rewriting of rights.
Yeah. I don't think we should burn our books. Let's just say that, or re-edit the Wikipedia pages just because somebody gets offended. That doesn't change the facts. It might slump some people down the line of not knowing what went down. And I think actually technology could kind of ruin us to some degree, or retard our way of thinking. And I don't mean that negatively. I just say, like, I think it's showing. Like, we have people thinking like you're an influencer, and like that's important. What about teachers? What about coaches? Like the role models, and not people that are throwing.
Yeah, people that have a direct impact on a person's life within their community.
Like that's way more important than somebody tell me where the best taco place is, or these are the fabulous shoes I need to wear. I'm like, you kidding me? I buy New Balance from Walmart. Like, get out of here.
Sean, I feel like you're an old soul trapped in that body.
I think I'm just a curmudgeon, to be honest with you. That's what it might be. Like I feel like Clint Eastwood sometimes. Like, get off my lawn, These kids with their loud music. It's like, oh God, I gotta go to bed. You know how late it is? Jeez, Louise.
You're cracking me up, brother. So as far as this stuff goes with tackling these subjects, what's really interesting to me, and you brought up a good point about not appreciating the people who make a direct or have the ability to make a direct impact in your life. We appreciate more. Well, not we, but right. Societally, we are being pushed to appreciate more the superficial.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you see that occurring? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I see that happening too often and too fast. Like, I'll go through my YouTube feed and like these random channels come up of this person is telling me I should get this, or this person's telling me I should think that. It's like, no, like, relax, Junior. Like, things were pretty good, like in my parents' generation of the way they thought of things. So I don't know. I just think you give a kid a tablet or a cell phone and a video camera, and they think they're they're more important than they are. And
Well,
I think it was doing with
yeah,
parents.
the technology is making some people feel almost godlike in a way.
Yeah, yeah. And when they get the reality check of getting smacked up or go, there's a guy that went to Asia, and he was he whatever, it's Instagram Live. I don't know. I'm TikTok, and he was being very disrespectful. And then the people in the area found him, and he got his ass handed to him. Sorry for the cursing. Handed to him a couple times. Then he got arrested. Now he's going to go to jail for a few years for being a disrespectful kid. So I think having that technology in your hands, like the limitations of the law, you don't you don't respect. Just because you may think one way, that's not how they do it out there, and you're a guest, so you
Yeah. Well,
just gotta be
now you're
respectful. You gotta be respectful. Not a lot of people are respectful.
now you're twisting the topic of the show up on its head, because
Oh, I'm
now you're
sorry.
almost talking about no, I'm glad that you did that, because I was
Okay.
going to try to find a way to do that, but you did it brilliantly without knowing it, I think.
No, that is smart.
You're you're kind of talking about how fantasy
Mm,
is not necessarily inspiring reality, but it is causing a blending and a blurring
it's reversing it.
of reality. Yeah. Well, in some
Mm-hmm.
cases, it could absolutely be. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
100%. So you get people that are so caught up in what they believe to be a reality before them. It's almost like we're peering through another dimension when you kind of live in this box. You think
It's the
that
Twilight
this,
Zone for sure.
like
Yeah.
like like for some people, they maybe only ever see me here. So it
Mm-hmm.
feels like I just exist in this room, in this space, in this
Yeah.
two-dimensional
Yeah.
plane. But I don't exist just in this two-dimensional plane. And the same thing for you or anybody else in a certain aspect. So there's some people where that is reality to them. What they see on the screen, or what is going on, or what they think someone thinks about, or has tweeted about, or posted about, or made a video
Right.
about, whatever. That is 100% unequivocal reality. And it's a part of reality, but it is not the whole picture. You're missing a lot more context to it.
Mm-hmm.
And finding, if anything, that's I think the fun part about a lot of this is finding and exploring the context behind it. That's even
Mm-hmm.
when I love having these conversations that go deeper than just the comic you're making, or why you're
Yeah.
making it, or that kind of thing. We do a ground level baseline to establish, but then we get deeper with the conversation. So I find that that's funny that you mentioned that, because it is happening more and more, and I think we've got a lot of technology that's almost either consciously or subconsciously brainwashing people in that aspect.
Mm-hmm. Without a doubt.
Yeah, Sheldon. Yeah, I'm not just a YouTube AI for entertaining to pass your evening, but I'm happy to
Yeah,
be here.
feelings.
So for you now, Sheldon did bring up AI.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on AI being used in art?
I think it's atrocious. I think it's a downfall. Now, to contradict myself, like let's say if they're using it for making movie props or video game props, like I don't know what they're called, but let's just say Mario Brothers. If they need an extra block, cool. But for artists, I think it's pretty disrespectful. I think that people passing that as their own art is kind of shameful. Like myself, and you're a heck of an illustrator yourself. Like we
Oh,
put
thank you,
in
man.
thousands upon thousands of hours crafting our art to be the best they can, hopefully. And these people are just putting in an algorithm, and within however long it takes, it's like here it is. It's. But I think people are going to catch on. I think the fans are going to catch on that since it's not coming from a real person, a place of love and passion, that they'll hopefully dismiss it. Now, Hollywood and the studios, that's out of my. I don't know. I think they'll probably use it as much as they can to lessen, well, to get more from their bottom dollar. But as far as an illustrator goes, I do not like it one bit. And I don't know the pure specifics on how to create it or this or that, but and it kind of all looks the same. Like it does look good. I'm not gonna lie, but it just kind of all looks like the same artist. Like one may look a little more 3D-er, one may look a little more art germier. So
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's interesting cuz it's inevitable in some respect
hmm
of it being used and possibly even being, I mean, some people have monetized it in some way at this point.
oh sure,
But I find that the more, like you were talking about, the more that we see it being used, I think we're going to see even more people uh, pushing back in a way. And I think I hope we do anyway. I hope we see a lot more people that create traditional or even they made it themselves digitally or something, works of
yeah.
art, as opposed to kind of putting the prompts through and using the system. And then, because it's a tool, absolutely, and it's a very useful tool. You can see the
hmm
uses for it, but
Yeah.
I think it does have its limitations, and I think it's always gonna have some limitations. I don't like. There's some people that they go, well, it could possibly just create like the full tilt, like the whole comic book or whatever it is for you. Now, if we do get to that point where someone can just kind of put things through, put a script through, put a bunch of prompts, and make their own comic in like a day, and the whole thing is completely done, and they did it themselves through the AI program. If we get to that point, I honestly think we have bigger things to worry about in the world if we have AI on that level that could do that.
Right. Yeah. Oh,
So
most certain.
yeah, so it's interesting. I think we're gonna see people push back by creating more, and I think that's the only thing you could really do, because in this scenario, it's tough to what do we do, right? We go, oh, I just don't use it, so you could not use it. You could not purchase maybe something being made by someone with it.
hmm
But at the end of the day, however that build is going to really be decided by the overall market. And that's the thing that's tough. So people got to really try to find ways to be creative and stand out and keep creating something that hopefully means something to them and that they're pouring their heart and soul into.
Amen.
Yeah, yeah. But it's gonna be tough.
But
It really is.
it's a challenge. But when we have, like, not to fluff our ego, but you have creators like us, Joe Sontag, Mark Polton. We're all coming from a place of heart and love, and I think that the crowd and everybody that spends their hard-earned money sees the passion that we all have in our books and the worlds we're trying to create. And I think we have one leg up on AI, for now at least, above anything else. So we just gotta spread the word, spread
Yeah.
the word the best we can. Just
Yeah, and I think it's going to be an endurance test
mhm.
for people who don't want to go that route, you know. And this isn't just like technology, people are scared of it or whatever it may be. At least that's not the point I'm taking. The point
Right.
I'm taking with the AI stuff, as far as worry, I'm not really worried on this level. I'm more worried about AI's uses for a lot of other things. Like I said, if we get to a point where AI is so advanced, it's pretty much, creating whatever, and maybe even doing it on its own at some point too.
Yeah, we've seen the
Um,
Terminator. We grew up in that
yeah,
era.
we
Yeah,
have a
yeah,
lot more problems to worry about.
yeah,
Right now AI is still very much a human controlled construct
yeah,
being, to make something. It's still kind of a tool.
yeah.
But yeah, once we got to deal with AI that could fully replicate and duplicate what human beings can do on every level,
hmm
and we very well could be there within our lifetimes, that's for sure.
Yeah, I
But
say we're in the Game Boy era of it. We haven't gone to virtual reality aspect of it. If you want to put the comparisons, like we're still in the infancy stage. So
yeah,
hopefully we're okay.
yeah, yeah. But I think exactly what we were talking about before, where whatever is currently going on, of course,
hmm
there's going to be people that embrace it, but then
Yeah,
there's going to be a swath of people, a large amount, that are then going to go, I'm not really cool with what's going on. I'm going to start looking towards the past, towards something to connect with. Because I think there's a basic human tendency for us to want to find connection,
yeah,
you know? And I think the AI stuff, it looks nice, some of it. Some of it is is like you said, it starts to, once you see a bunch of it, you're like, oh, it all looks the same,
Mm.
and eventually it becomes, because it all looks the same, it starts, no matter how good it is, it starts to become boring.
Yep.
So yeah, it's I think we're going to see a lot of people then hit a point where AI is not really as great as we thought it was on the art level.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see. Interesting, man.
And somebody just recently did an AI thing for Lady Death, but it was like Brian Polito didn't warrant the variant cover, so he's taking whatever actions he's taken against the people. But it's like, oh, like it didn't even look good. Like Lady Death is a hot character, like a fictional hot character, and it just did not look good one bit. So that's why we need to keep practicing our craft.
I gotta check that out. I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah. Within the past Monday or Tuesday, I think it happened.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah. There's such a gray area with so much of it in a legal standpoint. So that in itself is going to make it, I think, more difficult to be used in a commercial way. But it's a tool. I think it's a great tool for some people that it'll help them to realize what they want to do. But in terms of it being used to sell, I don't know. I mean, personally, I'll never use it. I don't even really draw digitally. Like even digital coloring and things like that. It's like, yeah, I might use Photoshop to touch something up or something for layout or lettering and things like that. And even that took me a while to make peace with it. But the AI element, for me, the reason I would never use it is because there's something like to draw, even when you do it digitally. There's something about it, right? About actually drawing it, about the process of being connected with the art and you're creating it. So even if you are doing it traditionally or you're doing it digitally and you're still using your stylus and this and that or whatever, and maybe you have your simulated digital paints or your brushes or your pencils or whatever, there's still that feel of drawing, and it's like a different state. And I like that part of creating and of drawing. And the same thing goes for writing. I could never use AI to write my stuff.
It wouldn't be your words. It wouldn't be your thoughts.
Yeah.
Like there's not tactile, but there's a problem solving when you're creating. You're trying to figure out how does that hand look going in this direction or that direction or the angle. The perspective. It's problem solving and being able to do it.
Yeah.
And growing from there and be like, oh, I did it once, I could do it again. Let me try something else different. It's just, I think that's what I love about being an illustrator. You get to come up with these, it might seem like minute problems, but you're trying to figure something out. You're trying to figure out the scene in the story that makes the best impact, and how detailed or intricate it is, that's on you, but it's still you doing it yourself, whether it's traditional or digital or even hybrid. Like I'm hybrid, so I do my finishes are mostly digital, but I like starting off traditional because like there's a love there, like there's like romance, like I've been doing this since I was a kid, and then I get artsy fartsy on the digital just for time saving,
Yeah. And like any other conversation, we could feel the way it is, and ultimately the way I feel is this. I feel like if people are going to make whatever they want to make, good. If people are going to purchase whatever makes them happy and they want to purchase that and they believe that is worth their money, and the time that was spent to earn that money, good. Purchase what you're going to purchase, buy what you're going to buy. That's it. And at the end of the day, when it comes to AI or not AI, we'll see. We'll see when the dust settles. Hopefully we're still around. But my biggest fear of it, if I had to go full tilt into the fear direction, would probably be like what you were just talking about, where there's a lot of things, and this is happening in other industries as well, where the AI does take out the human equation of problem solving. It takes out the thirst for knowledge and the ability to arrive at a conclusion through human ingenuity and perseverance. once you take that kind of thing away, we already have so much instant gratification due
Yeah.
to technology, you know, and to take it away further on something that brings even more humanity into the world, the arts, it's supposed to be more about the expression of humanity. But we've seen a corporatization of a lot of that, right? With it becoming over commercialized and everything else. You know, every single thing is a commodity. You yourself turn into a product and a brand and all these other
Hmm.
things. You know, so it becomes, you got to have that balance. But I think that if we really surrender down that path, and all you need is one generation to declare that, yeah, this is the way. The other way sucks. It's horrible. It's stupid. It's obsolete. You know, and I think that's why we've seen a push, to be honest, in terms of in modern times, looking towards even the immediate past. You know, one generation or two generations prior.
Hmm.
That's outdated. That's not relevant. You know, anything that those people had to say or live through doesn't matter. You know, even the things that were accomplished and achieved in positive ways, it's not. We're not going to acknowledge that. You know, you see, even in the media, they acknowledge more of these things that happen now as if what happened then that never happened. What are you talking about? You know, what's happening now is it's the first of, or it's the thing that's groundbreaking, you know,
Yeah.
and it dismisses completely the achievements of what became before. So it really, it's like a setup. We're seeing like a precursor to embracing technology in a scary kind of way. And I'm hoping that people like us and a lot of those in the chat and everybody else that's out there that feels kind of the way that we feel, that we'll keep putting our nose to the grindstone, getting stuff out there, and hopefully people embrace that. Hopefully it wakes even some people up, that it's like, oh yeah, that stuff, it was special because people made it.
Yes. Yes. Well, you know, I'm up for the challenge. I think we all could do it. We just keep on trucking.
Yeah, yeah. Brian, question for you says, how do you feel about a writer using AI to create a rough character sheet to send to an artist?
Ooh. Uh, you know, this might sound contradictory on my half, but like if you can't draw for for anything, and if you want to do the best you can to give the most information you can, yes, maybe. Or you could do like an inspiration board where you take up suggestions of different characters, whether it be movies, anime, comics, and point to different areas and be like something like this, but then more like that, and then just work and then work with the artist to give life to your character.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I think people could even, when they're working with an artist, you could even be as basic as just doodle as much as you can.
Mm-hmm.
Stick figure it out, really rough, whatever. And you all you need to do is put the artist, your very capable artist that you've hired to work with you, on some kind of a path, and you'll be shocked what they could come up with off of that and build on it. And then you can go back and forth,
Yeah.
you know. So I don't think that the AI would be even needed for that. I think if anything, you might find that it's a more frustrating experience for you and for your artist if you go that route. Let's see. Shrek says, I don't know enough about AI to be afraid of it. I understand. The thing, I'm not afraid of AI. I'm afraid of the people behind the AI.
Mm.
So it's like being afraid of a hammer. I'm not afraid of a hammer that just sits there, or even a gun
Yeah.
that just sits there. I'm afraid of the person that picks that up, and what are they going to use it for? Are they going to use that hammer to build, or are they going to use that hammer to destroy? Are they going to use that AI to build, or are they going to use it to destroy? The tendency and the inclination for people to use such a thing, that tool is so far advanced, way more advanced than we can comprehend. We are not there yet as a society to maturely be able to responsibly, going back all the way to the beginning of the episode, talking about, right, great power, great responsibility, talk about tremendous power. We are not there yet, and we are being thrust into that situation, and that's the frightening thing.
and even by people who aren't fully developed brains, where it's like, no, you can relax. Wait another 15 years, buddy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, man, it's interesting. But I'm so glad you came on the show tonight to talk about type 1 and really go in depth about it, man. I'm so glad I was able to learn more about it. So just a quick recap for those that might have missed a little bit of it, and then we'll close up the show. Type 1, what's it about, and why should people check it out?
All right, I got my spiel right here. If you like the books that I talk about on Appreciating Comic Book Art and Art and Stuff with Joe Sontag, this is an action-adventure tale with real-life implications that faces off terrors from the past. Find out why the mysterious Type 1 armor chose Thomas the Heart and what connection it has to the 9 Lords of the Night from the Mayan Aztec lore. It's a love letter to all things 80s and 90s, thrown in what people commonly known as Ancient Aliens mixed for the storyline. And the pitch that I'm going to put in the campaign now is, according to the Mayan calendar on December 12, 2012, the world was supposed to end from misdecoded translations from what was believed. But that wasn't the case at all. While it was a warning, it was something entirely different and much more severe than what was believed. Thoth of the Anunnaki created the Mesoamerican pyramids, not only as conductors and regeneration chambers, but also prisons for false gods, such as the 9 Lords of the Night. And please take this shot with Type 1. Written and drawn by me, colors by Dan Kemp, edited by Mark Polton, and letters by Eric Weathers.
There you go. All right, man. Where can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Sean Arendt. Tuesdays on Joe Sontag's Appreciating Comic Book Art with Kayla. Wednesdays, Revolution with Mark Polton, Chris Graves, Enrico Bata. And also Wednesdays, Art and Stuff with Joey and I. So on Joe's channel for that. So I'm around, slide in my DMs, ask a question. If you want to know a little bit more about the book before you spend your hard-earned money, I'm all about talking. So Twitter is probably the best place to hit me up.
There you go. Hard-working dude, busy guy.
I'm my best.
Yeah, keep it up, man.
Everybody
in the chat, thank you guys for joining us tonight. Sean, thank you so much for the conversation tonight, man. And best of luck with your book. Everybody go check it out. Type 1 is on Indiegogo, in demand right now. Let me give a quick refresh just in case we did get any backers tonight. I got 1 backer, so 6,608. There you go, 97 backers on board. You're 3 away from 100.
So much. Thank you. God bless. Yeah. Thank you. Wow.
There you go. Ooh. So, go check it out. The link is in the description of the show. I'll be back tomorrow night, Friday the 13th. We've got a spooktacular for you guys. We'll be talking about horror, the paranormal, conspiracy theory, ancient civilization stuff. Speaking of Joe Sontag, he'll be on the show tomorrow night along with Michael Bancroft, Robert Geronimo, Jay Doyle, and Von Klaus. I'll be there too. Hope you guys will be there as well. Yeah, it should be a real fun show. 6 of us on there. So again, 9 o'clock Eastern tomorrow night. Everybody take it easy and have a great night and even better tomorrow. Take it easy, everybody. See you soon.